Hey guys, welcome to our other conversation about women in history. This is just basically some extra information and some other stuff about some women that we didn't pick, just so that way you guys can be more educated and learn a little bit more about the women we didn't pick in our formal presentation. So first of all, Haley's going to start us off with some more information about women in science.
Okay, so the first woman I had was Helen Taussig, and her story was really cool, like really inspiring. She had a difficult journey to being a physician and faced a lot of discrimination. She had severe dyslexia, hearing loss from a childhood illness, and so she was best known for discovering the cause of blue baby syndrome, which was a birth defect of the heart that had a high mortality rate. And after she worked to develop the concept for this procedure and to repair the damage, she designed a technique which saved the lives of thousands of babies. And she continued her work until when she died at 87. But it was just really impressive, and her work really changed the future of that and mostly really like got rid of it, like solved it. Yeah, she discovered why the blue baby syndrome was caused.
That's pretty cool. Like, when was she alive? And like, when did she make these discoveries?
So she received her medical degree in 1927. So she was born, I believe, like early 1900s. Let me look, 1900s. Oh, I can't do math. Let me look up the date. Helen Tusk. I had to look too to make sure. I'm like, how do I pronounce the name? I did a Google search on how to
Yeah,
pronounce.
just wait. I'm gonna get some of mine wrong. So,
I'm like, sorry if I did pronounce that wrong, but it was 1898 to 1986.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And she's from the US or?
Yeah, she was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a good choice to have too.
Yeah, I was really debating like the other one that I'm gonna list Alice Ball, but these were my top three of who I wanted to present. I kept on going back and forth between who I wanted to pick or not.
That's awesome. Onward.
And yeah, so that was it for Helen Taussig. I just thought her story was really cool and like super impressive. Like I definitely don't think I could have the same standard in the future, but yeah, up next, Alice Ball. Her story. Oh, she was so young. I felt really sad of her story of just how young she was because she lived a short life to
Oh,
I think only to 24.
oh wow.
Yeah, so she was a chemist and revolutionized treatment for leprosy. She was the first woman and African American to receive a master's degree at the University of Hawaii. And essentially, so Dr. Harry Hallman asked her for assistance on analyzing okay, I'm going to say this wrong, Chalmungra oil, which was a popular treatment for leprosy, and they didn't quite know how to use it effectively. But she developed a way to isolate the active ingredients in the oil, which allowed them to be injective. So she like really helped discover like the beginnings of a treatment, the beginning of like a vaccine. And so later, when she died of an illness, another chemist published her work, but he didn't give her credit at all.
Oh,
And it was actually okay. So Holman, he was a male doctor. He was good, and he credited her. Like he publicly declared, after a great amount of experimental work, Miss Ball solved the problem for me. This, and then it's in quotes to summarize. This preparation is known as the Ball method. So her treatment remained the best option for leprosy patients until like the mid 1940s.
oh wow.
Yes, she was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that just sucks. Like, you see that a lot with women back in the day, how they did something amazing, but they either get little or no credit for their work.
Yeah, I remember when I was researching women, I had searched, okay, I have her name somewhere at the bottom of this document. Rosalind Franklin. It was like she was with the DNA thing, and I just wrote that she
Mhm.
deserved better. Like she deserved more credit than what she got. Pretty much all of these women did, and it's like an unfortunate common trend for that to
Yeah.
not to receive credit. I remember too in so my other science woman that I had done in the video, one crazy thing that was to me, for she was a marine biologist, but during her career, she wasn't able to go out to sea and study the research. She had to wait until they came back to study things, and that was just so crazy to me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's sadly a common theme that appears a lot throughout history. But that's pretty cool that she made those accomplishments so young. But sucks that she died so young too.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and her picture's cool too. Is she in like a grad uniform, it looks like a grad cap and gown?
Yeah, I believe it was from either when she graduated from either the University of Hawaii or from Washington.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. Huh.
So
Okay.
what story?
So now we are going to go on to technology and some of my other choices that I had for women. So first of all, we have Marie Van Brittan Brown. So basically, her story is really interesting. So she lived with her husband in New York City, and her husband worked really weird late hours of the night. And she lived in this really awful, like unsafe neighborhood. And obviously, she would get scared at night when her husband wasn't with her and when she was home alone. So, with the help of her husband, who was an electric technician, she invented the home security system in 1966. And she basically, the system involved people's cameras, television monitors, microphones, and she could see the person outside of her house through like this camera system that she had. And it's a huge like influence to modern security systems. And that picture on the right, it's a little blurry, but it's kind of how it works. Like she could like see them from like this TV screen from her bed, and she could see like the person out front of the house.
That's really cool. When was she born? You know?
She was born in 1922 in New York. I think I can't remember if she actually lived in New York. I know I said that earlier, but I know it was some like unsafe neighborhood when she like invented this security system. But yeah, she was born in New York though in 1922. So it's interesting because her story is a lot more modern too than a lot of the other people I was looking at and picking on.
Yeah. I do. It does make me wonder what people were, like thinking of the time when this came out. Like, if they were really receptive to it, or if it took a few years for her like security system to like take off.
Yeah, I think that people were like somewhat accepting of it. I'm not entirely sure, but I know that it was very successful. Like it obviously like helped inspire what we have today. But I mean, by looking at that picture, it looks like it's pretty complex.
Right. I admire people that can come up with something like so creative with this and like, creative and technical because I just admire it.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the other reasons I didn't pick her, even though I really, really liked her story, was that like technically I believe the permit that she was assigned when she got this when she got this invention, I can't think of the word, but when she got it like approved through the US, when she got a permit for it, it was, I think, in the name of both her and her husband. So it was kind of like a collective team effort. And we were focusing more on like the women themselves. So I was like, oh, I should find somebody who's like the permit was assigned like just to them.
Yeah. Still impressive though.
Yeah, it's pretty
Really.
cool. Okay, onward to my other choice, who I almost picked as well, Mary Anderson. She has another interesting story. I believe she was from the United States. And when she was traveling from New York to Alabama, or from Alabama to New York, she obviously, like women weren't really driving as much back then, but her driver himself it was raining outside, and she noticed that he couldn't really see through the windshield very well. So because of this, it inspired her to invent the windshield wipers, which in her early version of it, it was wood, rubber, and some sort of like pulley system that the driver could use while driving. And sadly, as we saw earlier with one of your scientist women, people kind of disregarded her invention and kind of just said like, nobody really cares. It's a woman that invented it. It doesn't really matter. But then a few years later, a man came up with the same invention and people sort of regarded it as really cool and they adapted it, which is pretty sad, but
Yeah. Man, it
yeah.
does suck that really does happen, like, a lot.
Yeah, and she never really received credit for it either. Like it was just, I don't know the guy's name, but it was just the guy who went and actually got a permit for it, because she tried to get a permit for it too, but she couldn't get that either, which is kind of dumb. But and like I even wrote down that she tried selling it to a Canadian company and they saw the invention as useless and pointless.
Oh gosh. And it's crazy too to think like I almost consider them like a necessity, like the windshield wipers today. It's makes driving way more safe.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just crazy to think that people looked at this and said, nah, that's stupid. Like,
Right.
yeah. And I'm sure like at least 50% of the reason why they said that was because she's a woman.
Oh. And that's why I do think like these videos are just so important, because it's like these women, a lot of times their achievements have been like overshadowed or understated. So it's important that we give them the recognition that they deserve.
Yeah, for sure. Because like we were talking about earlier, like this happens a lot more in history than people realize. Okay, onward to engineering.
Yeah. All right. So my first choice was Joan Clark. And oh, that's embarrassing. There's a small little typo. Clark with an E. Okay, just excuse that.
Joan Clark with the E.
Yeah, Joan Clark with an E. She was born in England, and that was part of what did kind of eliminate her at first, because I was trying to focus more on women that were, at first my main focus was born in America. And so she worked during World War II, and she was like a crypto analyst, and at the time they were kind of like unheard of. So she encrypted enemy messages from from the German Navy in real time, and with her messages resulting in military action being taken almost instantly. And it saved countless lives from potential U-boat attacks. I'm getting all tongue-tied. But essentially, her work, she decrypted messages from the German Navy, and with that, just saved countless people. Like it was an amazing job, really, and she didn't get that much credit, and her work was almost completely forgotten, which is just crazy, because it's just partly, I think, mainly because she was like a woman, and people just didn't want to give people the credit they deserved.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like even today, like I don't know much about the field of like crypto analytics, but it sounds like something that like is very like computer science oriented and that you don't really see many people doing even today in like 2021.
Yeah, and it's like her job just sounds so hard and so complex, and these codes are in like a different language, so like she obviously was like smart, but she got the focus and the spotlight that she deserved for her work.
That's cool. That, and then especially too, like working specifically in a war like World War II, because you don't really see that with many women either throughout history that are like actually like playing a major part in a war.
Yeah, and that's like her job had some intense pressure. And I read too that when she was working with the team, they always like refer to her and the other like woman scientists as quote unquote the girls, which is like kind of a little bit passive aggressive,
Yeah.
So it's just amazing that she like powered through that, did this super stressful, intense job.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Good for her. If only they received more credit.
Right. And then, so the next one I did, it was a group of women. That's why I also didn't kind of add it in our main project was because it was a group of people. So the ENIAC women, their names were, okay, I apologize. I'm probably going to say some names. Fran Billis, Jean Bartik, Ruth Lichterman, Kay McNulty, Betty Schneider, and Marilyn Westhoff. So if you're interested and you Google that, then you can see how the names are pronounced. But yeah, I'm bad at pronouncing names. But they programmed the first all electronic programmable computer, the ENIAC. So electronic, numerical, integrator, and computer. And so they helped join the field by the labor shortage of the time. So they really had to learn quickly how to program using only logical diagrams. So no programming language existed at the time. And as a computer science major, I could tell you that just sounds so hard, like figuring it out yourself, trial by trial. And coding is so much easier if you have like a guide to help you to solve problems, but these women really didn't. And that's just crazy to me because it's just coding is hard sometimes. And that's why I like Java. Java has so many like help resources.
I feel you. Like I'm just sitting here nodding my head as the math major who took like 2 coding classes. I'm just like, oh, it was hard.
And then, okay, so one crazy fact that I read too is a lot of the times historians mistake them for refrigerator ladies, which is like, oh, why?
For what?
Refrigerator ladies.
Wait, what does that mean? Like that they like repaired refrigerators or something?
Yeah, they thought that they were like models for like standing behind a refrigerator instead of a computer.
Oh, like in that picture?
Yeah, and the picture, the older one.
Oh.
And I mean, okay, I guess I can kind of see because computers back then were not our little small laptops today. Some of them literally filled like an entire room, but still, refrigerator ladies, no, they were not.
Like I can kind of see because like the lady on the left, it almost looks like she's like holding a row of bottles or something.
Mm-hmm.
But like it does not look like a refrigerator behind them.
And yes, it is crazy that they completed this project in 1945. So it's just one, they deserve more credit. They should not be known as the refrigerator ladies. And two, really impressive that they did this, especially, during ending wartime time period.
Yeah, that's crazy. So like just judging by the picture, it looks like they were all like pretty young when they did that too.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, still these 6 women, most of them, it's just crazy that they didn't really have a reference guide, like a programming language. That's so important because it gives you a guideline during your coding project. You can look up help because everyone has the same programming language. So it's amazing that they're able to do this with no reference guide. I keep saying that, but oh my God, that reference guide is so important and so helpful.
Yeah, like what's the one? Gosh, the one I used it so much when I coded in R for the class. Was it like Stack Exchange or something? One of those websites that like just tells you so much about how to like code in that language.
Yeah,
I can't think of the website, but
all the time. Then I think this other one is called like We Three Schools or something like that. Yeah, it is We Three Schools, and they give you like Python, Java, SQL, HTML, like a bunch of resources for like they give you an example, tell you what it is. Like that's a lifesaver. So the fact that they have that, it's just crazy to me. They're so smart.
Like just, and then I'm just thinking about like my first programming class that I ever took. I can't remember the name of the program. Oh, Flogorithm or something. But like, and it was a program that was taught to you to teach you how to program. So it was a program about programming. And I'm just like, I can't imagine what these women went through. Like they didn't have programs about programs.
Right. And yeah, I took that class too. And I mean, it really helped me when I took my programming class, because I'm like, wow, actually, I guess I didn't really need to learn about the programs if the first class teaches you directly. But I mean, it still made my life, so I wasn't struggling. But it's still, I don't know, it's crazy to me that like we have all this like help, and programming is still hard, even with the guides. And these women just didn't. And I'm like, I can already tell that they're super smart, because I don't know if I could do it without a guide reference.
Yeah, I get that. Like I would have a hard time. Actually, I already have a hard time with programming. Like I can't imagine. Like kudos to them. But one other quick question. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but do you know who the other woman in the picture on the right is?
Yeah, okay. So I have seen after I took the picture, because I noticed that too, but so far, okay, so Fran, Jean, Ruth, Kay, Betty, and oh, so in the article when they list it, they list all 6 women's names, but in the pictures it seems like they don't like have all the women at the same time. But if you search their like just the ENIAC women, then you see pictures of like all of them, well like not together. But it is a little weird to me seeing that you don't really, at the top of my head when I first searched, I don't think you see a picture of them straight up all together.
That is interesting.
Maybe some of them just had like privacy thing to where like, no, I don't want to take a picture of myself.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
All right. On to our last topic, mathematics, coming from the math major. So one of my other choices for math was, I'm probably going to butcher her name, Emmy Noether. And she was a German woman, and she made a lot of progress in the field of abstract algebra. I'm not sure if as a computer science that you had to take abstract algebra, probably not.
I haven't, but it definitely sounds scary.
It was one of my more fun classes to me. I really liked it. Like, it was just kind of like, it was algebra, but it was more abstract, I guess, like the name says.
That's the math major in you. It sounds disgusting to me.
But she actually received her PhD as well, which is pretty impressive from the time she lived in, from 1882 through 1935. And she was an unofficial associate professor at a university. And one of the things that I found really, really interesting about her was that she was actually praised by Albert Einstein about her work.
Dang, that made me like jaw drop. That sounds so impressive.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Like, I thought her story was pretty interesting, but one of the main reasons I didn't pick her was just like, I figured nobody's besides me, the math major in me, is really going to know much about abstract algebra. So nobody's really going to understand what that means and what her accomplishments meant. So.
Oh, I felt that struggle. I mean, that was like, it really was hard for me to pick a computer science woman too, to like something that's exciting to non-computer science majors and non-computer scientists.
Yeah. But I mean, one of the like huge highlights I thought was when I was like, she's praised by Albert Einstein. Like, that's really cool.
I mean, even people that are like non-math, non-STEM think, wow, this woman's amazing because of that. Like, that just shows you.
Yeah, like everybody knows who Albert Einstein is.
It's funny, I searched her just now, and one of the things, the top question was, what did Albert Einstein say about her?
You should read it. I think there might have been like a quote or something. I don't have it written in front of me, but.
Here's the quote. So I'm probably going to say her last name wrong too, but he wrote in the New York Times, Noether was the most significant creative mathematical genius thus far produced since the higher education of women began.
See, like, that's so cool. Like coming from Albert Einstein, like,
right.
That's a huge compliment. I mean, that is coming from anybody, but like someone like him, that's huge.
Right. Who's like, so like everyone knows who he is. So
But
dang, she's
then
smart.
nobody knows who she is, though. That's what's sad.
Right. And then I guess it was it is a little bad too that like we can tell she's smart because Albert Einstein says she is. Not like just knowing the names, but we should have like, oh, this person's smart because Emmy Noether says so.
Yeah, like totally. It's not like you're saying, it's not people know, oh my gosh, like everybody knows about Emmy, but people are like, oh, but Albert Einstein said something about her. So like, so that means she's smart. Like, yeah, that sucks. But it's really cool that like she had quite a bit of accomplishments. And like I said, like receiving a PhD and being an associate professor at a university during the 1900s, like the early 1900s too. Like that's
It
pretty
is,
big too.
that is crazy to me that she was like a professor so like early on, like was pretty sexist back then. So it just shows her dedication, and how smart she was, that people were, took her seriously, or she made them take her seriously.
Yeah, but sadly it was like quote unquote like an unofficial professor, because she's a woman. But yeah, her story was pretty cool to me. And like, especially in a field like abstract algebra, like, I mean, it's just algebra, but then just using more variables and things. And there's a lot of pretty interesting like theorems and stuff there too. And just to think that like she was one of the ones that was pioneering in that field is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So I forgot, have you already heard of her from your math classes, or was this like new to you?
I don't think I had heard of her. Like, I wish I had my abstract algebra book. It's somewhere in my room, but I don't think I had ever heard of her before this. Like, I don't think her name was ever like mentioned in my book. Because like, there are like some theorems in math that are like named for mathematicians that invented them. But I don't remember anything Noether. But if I do find anything, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Let's see. And my last woman that I was going to do was, I'm going to butcher her name too, Dorothy Vaughan, I think is just her last name. But you may have heard of her. She was one of the women who worked for NASA back in the I think it was 1940s and 50s. And she received her degree in mathematics in 1929 at a university. And at first she was actually a teacher, but then she left her job as a teacher to work for, at the time it was called NACA, which turned into NASA. And she worked a job processing data. And after that, she sort of worked her way up to the first Black supervisor, not female Black, just Black supervisor. And then also one of the first female supervisors in her computing unit at NASA. And she just joined a lot of different, she joined like an integrated program at NASA called Analysis and Computation Division, where she contributed to a lot of different projects. And she was actually one of the women in the 2016 film Hidden Figures.
That was my first question, because I'm like, I'm pretty sure she was, but her story sounds really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that she started off as a teacher and then like left her job as a teacher to go work for NASA.
And I think it's impressive too, how like at the time places were segregated, and she's just a tough cookie, looking at like to go through that and still be like dedicated with her work, showing up every day despite the racism and sexism that was going on during the time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. But I think I might have mentioned this. Maybe I forgot to mention the name of it. But the program that she joined at NASA, it was actually a racially integrated program, meaning that like she would work with like people of other races, not just like a African American division. So that was like maybe a step in the right direction, although I can't guarantee that she didn't experience any racism in the program.
Still, I mean, that is pretty cool, and that's good that just made. I mean, sure, it was probably still hard, the attitudes, but just makes that it wasn't segregated makes her life a little bit easier at the time.
Yeah, and then I also forgot to mention that she retired from NASA in 1971, which meaning she had worked there for like almost 30-ish years. Yeah, like about 30 years, which is
That's
pretty
cool.
cool, which is
Yeah,
definitely a long-lived career as well at NASA.
I always thought it was cool. And that's, I mean, that's really cool that she was like in the fields and stuff.
Yeah, especially like even now, like you think of like the requirements it takes to work for NASA to like get an internship or get a job is like pretty crazy. And to think that like back in the 40s, she was like a person of color and a woman that's like doing this is pretty cool.
Hmm. Do you know, it's a little specific. Do you know, but did she just have like her bachelor's or do you know if she had a PhD?
Um, I'm not entirely sure.
I'm gonna search it.
I know, I was like, I'm gonna just look it up real fast too.
'Cause I'm kind of curious. Started out as like a teacher, you know?
Yeah, I know for sure she has her bachelor's. I did write that down. But and it was in mathematics, which is I think why she was like sort of one of my major choices. But I'm not sure if her work in NASA, I mean, it probably dabbled in math and like aeronautics and maybe even computer science, but just because her degree was in math, I mean, take it from a math major, like it's not easy.
Right. So from my quick Google search, it says, I mean, there could be a countered in a specific article that's not saying, but it sounds like she just had a bachelor, which is like, wow, she's smart to like, because I'm sure like her work was like, you know, like a mixture of levels, you know, of
Mm-hmm.
levels. So it's just impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like you do cover quite a bit of ground with a bachelor's in mathematics, but I mean, nowadays, I don't know if you could get a job working for NASA with just a bachelor's in mathematics.
Yeah,
Maybe, but it would probably be like one of the lower end jobs.
which is crazy. I mean, that's like with the computer science stuff. We have to where we can specialize a little bit right now, like, you know, with your focus. But then,
Mm-hmm.
so like, I was interested in data stuff. And so I have like 2 or 3 classes that I continue on taking. But to go further, like deeper into that, that's the graduate classes.
Yeah, for sure. And like you were saying, like it is really impressive that with just a bachelor's, which is what I'm going through right now, is that she was able to work for NASA and also
Right.
not only like work for NASA, but also like build up a career with NASA and do things like, especially like learning on the job too. I'm sure she did a ton of that with only a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, I remember too, like, one of my computer science professors was like, I mean, what you learn at school is important, but they're like, you really do the on the job learning, like how they code, what procedures they have for formatting their code, like all, like you learn pretty much most of the stuff you'll learn is on the job, is what they told us.
Yeah, for sure. And then to think too that like her two main career paths, teaching and NASA, two very different things.
Right? I wonder what like inspired her, you know, like what
Mm-hmm.
did the drive? Because that is a pretty big jump, and it's impressive that like she started out just a teacher, but she like thrived at NASA. NASA's just whenever I hear so like, oh, I worked at NASA, I'm like, wow, you're impressive.
Yeah, I agree. It's especially nowadays, just with all the things they've accomplished as a company. It's just like, wow, when you hear their name, it's like, it's pretty cool thinking that she worked for them. Okay, I think that ties up our extra Zoom. And if you guys listened, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed our presentation. I hope you enjoyed learning more about these extra women. And we really appreciate you guys giving our time.